All righty, here we go. Good morning, everybody. April 22nd, another Water Cooler Wednesday for you. Always got some good information. Joined as always by Dwayne Gibbs. Dwayne, what's happening?
Hey, good morning.
Let's see. Is that my volume or yours? There we go. Um, yeah, got some interesting things going on. I think I'll start today with a little update on something else I showed on the water cooler, and then interesting deal came my way that will bring out some good points on both the real estate investing side as well as the note investing side. And by the way, those are often, always intertwined, right? Buying a note, you're buying the debt on the property. Buying the property, you're usually borrowing money to buy the property. So anytime borrowing is involved on a property, whether it's short term, long term, everything in between, that is indeed a note. So sometimes we create notes, help people with that. Sometimes we are buying notes that somebody else already created, which obviously we help people do that as well. So anything involved on the financing side is really what the paper business is all about. So that's why I always say, if you're involved in real estate, you should understand the paper side of the business, the note side of the business. If you're in the note side of the business, you should understand the real estate side of the business as well. So got a couple of things here, I think, and Dwayne, you got to help me make sure on this, but I believe that I spoke about this deal. I'm going to start with a picture so
You
you
did.
probably remember it better. Okay, yeah, I thought so. Maybe even last weekend, right?
I
Or
don't know if it was
Wednesday.
last week or the week before. I think maybe it was last week. Yeah.
Yeah, let me turn that do not disturb on there. Yeah, and I briefed this property. As I mentioned, it's in a upcoming neighborhood. It's an older home, obviously has some deferred maintenance to it, that sort of thing, but the neighborhood is growing, so a lot of positive things on this note. It's an old contract for deed, but it's been around, just to refresh everybody, since 2011. So, I mean, all kinds of seasoning, appreciation, equity, all the things that we really love to see in a so-called turnkey note. So they're paying down the balance of the loan. The property value is going up, and that creates incentives for people to stay and pay. They've got a lot of equity. The other thing that does it is the monthly payments. The monthly payments on this particular note is $350 a month, principal and interest, everybody. So, you can't rent in that area for that. You might be able to rent a room, but certainly not a two-story house. So there's a lot of motivators to have people stay and pay. The document itself, the agreement for deed does that. But you know what? There's never been a problem. These folks are paying with taxes and everything else included, $534 a month, and they've been paying pretty darn well on time. A couple late payments here and there, but that kind of stuff happens. No big deal. But I pointed out on this one that when we're buying notes, sometimes there's the unpaid balance and then there's the legal payoff. And the legal payoff is normally higher than what you would see on the unpaid balance because the legal payoff means either they were late before and you did some kind of forbearance and moved payments to the back end of the note, or in a case like this, we had right down here $3,700 worth of cash or advances that the note owner made, such as property taxes and insurance or some other unpaid loan charges. So even though I didn't know specifically what that was, it's not that really important that I know exactly what it is, but I just know that that's attached to the loan. But I also pointed out that that money probably is not going to get paid until the end of the loan. It just kind of sits there and it doesn't accrue any kind of interest or penalty. So when we're looking at these, we don't want to make an offer on the $3,700 because I think we did the math on that, and it was worth six, $700 or something today. I mean, it was really worth nothing. So we showed a different way where we're getting 10.6%. Well, I got an email on the 17th, and the email was from the note seller. He said, "Hey," he goes, "got a quick update for you. The borrowers cashed me out on the unpaid on the advances.
Wow.
Yeah, like $3,700. So
Tax return.
what's that?
Tax return, probably.
Yep, could be. Yeah, good point. Yeah, being in April. Yep, could very well be. And so they paid that. And that's awesome. So he was happy, and it didn't really affect. I mean, the balance is pretty much unchanged on this, right?
I just
But
solidified they ain't going anywhere.
there you go. That was the other point I was going to make. Is that a good sign for us as the note buyer? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, it is. Because they really weren't under big pressure, I don't think, to make that payment. They might have received a letter on it, something like that, and they came up with it. But at the end of the day, they could have just simply let that go a little bit. So that's a really, really strong sign. That's a really good sign. And I was happy because the borrower was happy. So he came back and he said, "Hey, they did this, and because of this, that, and the other. How about let's rerun our numbers here." So what it ended up doing is we're now getting this same loan for 30 grand. Okay, before it was 33, too. All right, so we're now getting another $3,000 off, which bumped our yield. So our yield went from 10.6 to 12.3, right? Number of payments stayed the same. The payment amount stayed the same. As a result, that also dropped our investment to value ratio, which was also great. I mean, it's already at 32%. It's now down to 29. At the end of the day, that's not a big difference, but it does adjust that down. Why? Because we have less money invested, but we definitely dropped on the investment to UPB, right? It was at 96%, which is my max, and now we're at 87%. And anybody who knows me knows I like to see that UPB in that 80 percentiles or less, but usually in that 80 percentile. And that makes for a strong note. And there you go, 12.38 percent. And we'll have this thing closed. The goal is to have this closed by Friday of this week, as the seller's going on a cruise for 5 days, right? So it's like, let's get it done. And
Getting the drink package now. He's getting the drink package.
yeah, yeah. So it'd be a good cruise and uh, for for him and yeah. But can we get it done that fast is probably a question some people have. Well, this is between a buyer and a seller that know each other and trust each other. Okay. This particular seller I trained about 15 years ago. Dwayne knows exactly who I'm talking about. He was there too. And the guy's built up a real nice portfolio and is pretty much retired and is just selling off some of his portfolio as he goes along. And it's a trusted party. So I sent him yesterday all of the contracts. So I created all the contracts, and the contracts are pretty simple. This is a note or agreement for deed. So there's three documents I need: assignment, a launch, and a quitclaim deed. So I drew all those up. I sent them over for approval to the note seller, make sure he's good with the contracts. He said, "Yep, let's go." Told me about the cruise. I said, "Well, sign that purchase sale agreement. I'll sign it, and my student partner on this one will sign it, and then those other documents, the launch, the assignment, and the quitclaim deed, special warranty deed in this case, um, pretty simple. The seller simply has to sign that. That's it. So once we all sign the PSA, which will be done in a couple of hours, then it's just up to him to go and get the documents notarized and signed, which he could do today, tomorrow. Once he does that, he'll let us know. He'll shoot me a little copy. We'll wire the money into his account. He'll send me the paperwork before he goes on the cruise. Done. So these deals can happen very quickly with trusted parties like that. If this was somebody I didn't know, then maybe we're going through escrow and there'll be some other steps in there. But even if we went through escrow, still could get it done. Still could get it done. Just a little extra step. But I thought that was pretty cool little update there. And yeah,
I,
how much better do you feel about buying that note? So uh, boom, they came out with almost 4 grand. We're getting a better yield. Everybody's happy.
I'd like to add this to it, and it's mainly for your student. And what I mean by that is you already have a captive audience of people that you've trained over the years that you've worked with closely that come to you with deals like this that they want to you're just another resource for them and for them to sell notes to. So
Right.
I know we talk about paper stack, we talk about all these companies out there that sell assets, but you formulated a a system, I guess, so to say, that you can work with previous students that you worked with in the past that you've educated. So, they've created good notes, and it's a real big plus for your existing students that you partner with because, like you said, it's somebody that you trust, somebody that you know, it's a great deal, it's a lock. And so that relationship, what I'm really saying is that relationship that you've created and that you bring to the table to your existing students now that are in the uh, partnership program, the Done for You,
Yeah.
it's sweet for them. It's really a safe deal.
Yeah, and I think the word you were searching for there was grassroots, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it
probably
it's
so. I was looking for
yeah.
I couldn't think of it that fast. A little
Yeah,
too
but
early still,
because
but
it's I mean, it's been cultivated. It's not
yes,
the first time I've done a deal, or first time I met this person. It's no, we've got the history there, and I love that. I had another guy who I trained about 5 years ago, and he went off and started doing his own thing, and he came to me and he said, "Hey, I've got 5 deals, and again, I want to thank you for getting me started in this business and really helped me get going. It's been going well." But when I thought about selling these notes, I thought of you first. So I wanted to give you a first crack at them. And on those particular notes, I passed on all of them. They were typically too big. These were $250,000 notes each. And I just passed on those for those
I
those reasons. But
I guess what I was really thinking about it now trying to say is that you have cultivated a or grassroots, so to say, of of a lot of people that know you, that trust you, know you can get it done, and it's really good for your done for you mentoring student because you created that relationship.
Yeah, it brings in what I always refer to as special inventory.
Yeah.
So nobody else saw that note that I just went over. Nobody else got an opportunity at that note. And same thing. The next time he has one, guess what? It'll be coming to me, and which is great. So it's always nice to have that extra inventory, and that's a tough thing. Is your point too? That's a tough thing to build up. You've got to have a reputation in the industry, and people have got to know and see the longevity and stuff. So yeah, it's happy to have that. All right. The next thing I mentioned, I talking about how real estate and real estate notes are all intertwined, and got a deal up in Winston-Salem, up in North Carolina, up there. And as soon as I'm done with the water cooler today, I've got a Zoom call with the broker on this one. So this was another broker note that came through me through networking, and I don't know this particular broker, but I went back in my computer, and Apple does a pretty good job of the way they store things. You put in a person's name, and it'll search my emails, documents, all that sort of stuff. And you know what popped up, Dwayne? There was an email of where Matt, who you know, back in 2025,
Hmm.
sent you an email to introduce you to this guy.
Yeah.
And I haven't met the guy before, but we're in.
He's out of Texas.
Yeah. Okay, you know exactly what I'm talking about then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think the deal he had for us last time, there was something where he goes, "Oh, this one I think is already sold, but yeah, I wanted to send it your way." That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So just kind of never stayed in contact. And again, that's part of the networking that falls through every once in a while. But so it came around through another party, and they said, "Hey, check these out." So um, let me go through this deal for you here. It's a single family home, good neighborhood. Winston-Salem's a good area, high income. We got colleges around there. That's that sort of thing. So this was a $65,000 sale. And by the way, just to start there, it just sold 8 months ago for $65,000 with $5,000 down, and then the rest was seller financed. And in the brochure that came with this, they're saying the property's worth 75,000. Let me tell you my rule on that one. If it was worth 75,000, why didn't they sell it for 75,000? You know what I mean? So when I'm looking at the value of a property, it's BPO or um, sales price, whichever is less. When you have a lightly seasoned note like that, they just sold it 8 months ago for $65,000. So you know what? It's worth 65 grand. What? Because that's what the market would bear, plus with financing. So when I run my investment to value ratio numbers, I'm not looking at 75 or 80 or whatever number they produce or whatever number Zillow produces. I don't need that anymore. I know it just sold for sure for $65,000 8 months ago. So that tells me what the market said it was worth. That's as simple as that. And that'll keep you out of trouble, everybody. So that's what I base my investment to value ratio on, which is the first number that I look at. What's my risk, right? That sort of thing. Okay. So the seller finance loan then has now been seasoned, as I said, for 8 months. All right. So let me give you the terms now of the loan. The terms of the loan were 60 months. Okay, so 5 years. So short-term note. What does that do to the value of a note? It increases the present value, which increases what that note is worth, the shorter the term. Okay, and that's just plain old math. All right, 60 months, but they did it on a 5-year balloon, which means they amortized it for something different. Amortization, amort, death, to kill off. Amortizing is to kill off over time. An amortized loan lowers the payments. You're paying back that principal and interest, right? So they based the payments on something less than what they would have been if it was simply 60 months and 5 years. In other words, if it was just 60 months in 5 years, you could do the quick math on that and just say, well, we'll just take that and whatever interest rate and put it in there. Um, so there'll be a balloon, got it? And of course, this real estate investor did a great job negotiating the terms of this loan because guess what interest rate they got it at, Dwayne?
Zero.
There you go. Dwayne had
How did
no
I know?
Dwayne had no idea what the interest rate was. I
I've
mean,
never
like
even seen
like
this. I have no idea.
we don't prep for this, believe me. I got on right at 9 o'clock, like, oh crap, I just finished putting this together. So yeah. So 0% interest. So great job, real estate investor. You did a fantastic job. Note creator, bad job. Bad job on you. 0% interest. You're going to hurt your resale. And I tell note investors all the time, create a note that has a good resale value, whether you choose to resell it or not, because maybe you will, maybe you won't. Okay. So doing good on the 60 month and the 5 year balloon sort of thing, but not so much on the interest. And by the way, if this was a consumer loan to a borrower, there may be a little problem with that 5 year balloon. We'd have
Yeah.
to push it back to 7 years. Dodd-Frank, I believe, says 7 years on a minimum for a balloon. But this was a investor who bought this property and in fact is renting the property.
I don't know if that matters then if it's an investor.
Dodd-Frank doesn't apply because it's business to business.
Right.
Yes, I think the balloon is fine here. I'll double
Yeah,
check it, but
yeah,
I
that's what
think
I'm
it's
saying.
fine because it's a
Yeah,
business, and he's got positive cash flow on it. He's renting the property for $1,200 a month right now, right? So 0% interest, and they didn't do it. Okay, quick math over 5 years. Let's just take 60 months and do a math like this, like $60,000, 60 months is $1,000 a month. That's not how they did it. They amortized it again at a for a monthly payment. But here on this, if it's just interest, 0% interest, every payment is principal, everybody. So it's not really amortized either, because
camping.
amortization again is with the principal and the interest. So they came up with a monthly payment. So the monthly payment is $416.67 a month. Okay. So that's what the parties agreed upon. And again, great job, real estate investor. You got 0% interest. You only put $5,000 down. Think about that. He put $5,000 down, 0% interest. He's got it rented for $1,200 a month. Good job. All he's facing is a 5-year balloon. But believe me, that real estate investor knows at the end of the day, if he can't come up with a balloon, guess what will happen? We'll move it back here. Something like that will happen. So that balloon's really not making that real estate investor nervous. Now, why would they refinance this loan? How are they going to pay the balloon? Sell it or refinance it? Well, if he's making that much on the cash flow, why would he sell it? So refinance. Why would he refinance? What's his interest rate? He's not going to get that out of bank. But here's the thing. I've got to scrutinize the paperwork to see what happens if that balloon is not paid. Is there something that would compel me to have to continue that at 0% interest? Or could I then say, okay, you want more time? Here's how we're going to do it. The 0% interest ride is over. Now, just because it's 0% interest doesn't mean that that's what I'm going to make. That's what the real estate investor is paying. Okay. So that's their coupon rate. My return is going to come from a discount. So, how do we take a 0% interest loan and make more than 0%? Well, we discount it because all the money is in the principal payments that are coming in. So, again, if I pay less for that, getting the same amount of payments, and let's just say that the balloon will pay off in 5 years, well, what does that look like? All right. So let's look at the math on that part of it. So here's how that's going to work. $416.67 times the 60 months. That's where the balloon is. That'll come to $25,020. Simple, just basic math. Okay. So if you're paying the 416.67, we multiply that by 60, it comes to $25,000.20. The loan amount is 20,000, or sorry, the loan amount's $60,000. So if we subtract out that $25,000.20, you'll see that the balloon amount that's due at the end of 60 months is $34,994.80. That's it. So in a case like this, where all the money is going towards principal, that is our balloon, what the remaining balance is after the 5 years are up. So in buying this note, we're looking at advancing capital today and receiving $416 a month for the next 52 months, right? Because 8 months have been paid on this for the next 52 months. And then we get just under $35,000. So you have to learn how to calculate how that all is done. We've said it many times on this format and other places. Pretty much every time I do a presentation, it's the numbers in the story. It's the numbers in the story. So you've got to understand how those numbers work on the calculations. And again, I use a calculator called a 10BII. It's an app. Got it on my phone, have it on my laptop, have it on my desktops, got it everywhere. Okay. You have to know how to to do that. It's pretty simple, everybody. You just have to plug in the variables and solve for the unknown. So you think in terms of what am I trying to solve for? So when they sent me this note, there was no price to it. They just said, make an offer. So right away, I go in my math and go, well, the house is worth $65,000. I've got to start there, right? So $65,000. And my rule is no more than 70% on my investment to value ratio, okay, which puts me at 45.5. So the most I would pay for this note is 45.5. I'm not saying that's what I'm going to pay, but that's the most I would pay. Why? Because now I'm looking at my risk. What if I buy this note, even though he's got a tenant in there, got it, everything else, positive cash flow, I've got to look at worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out, and then I got to take the property back. Okay. I'd rather be in it at 45.5, right? Because I'm in it for 70% of what the property is worth, 65,000. Now, it might indeed be worth more money at this point in time, but I know it sold for 65. I'm good at 65. So 45.5 is my top number. Now I've got to start to go through and look at, well, what kind of a yield is that? What kind of return would I be making on that amount? All right. So the math on this involves five different variables. Now, most of the time in this business, we look at four variables. We look at the number of payments, we look at the yield, we look at the present value, and we look at the monthly payment. Okay, so give me any three of those four and I can solve for the fourth. That's how it works. So if I'm looking for yield, give me the other variables. If I'm looking for number of payments, give me the other variables, right? It's pretty simple. In this one, we're dealing with future value. The future value is that lump sum that we're going to get in 52 months. Okay. So the way the math works on this is we have to back into a number. So what am I trying to solve here? What I'm trying to solve is what's my offer for this note? To reinterpret that is what's the present value that I'm willing to put out for this note? So what I'm really trying to solve here is present value. What's my present value? What am I willing to invest? So if that's the case, I need to know how many payments I'm buying. Well, that answer 52. That's simple. And that's why that's in the end in the calculator for those watching this on YouTube with the full value, with the full video, and here live as well. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm going to try to visualize it for you. So in this financial calculator, we enter financial register information. So 52 payments is what we're buying. We know that. We know our monthly payment amount, 416.67. And we calculated our balloon. So our balloon is our future value. Okay, so the variables that I know, I'm putting in there. I'm putting in the 34,994.8. That's my future value. I'm putting in 416.67 in my PMT. That's my monthly payment, and 52 in the end. But the way these work is if there's five variables, I need four to solve for the fifth. And what I'm trying to solve for again is present value. How much am I putting into this deal? Well, to do that, there has to be a yield. So then you think in terms of, well, what's an acceptable yield for me? Right? Is it 10%? Is it 12%? Is it somewhere in between? Is it 15? Okay. So you could put in any yield that you want and then solve for the fifth variable, which is your present value. So in this example, I put in 10%. Now, again, that may not be my final offer because I'm just getting the paperwork and everything on this deal today. I still have to see what's in there, but on a preliminary basis, I can play around
Seeing
with
if
some
you can
numbers.
work with it.
Yeah. So I put in 10% and then I solve for by clicking on the key and it comes to $40,257. That's what my offer would be. I go to check back on my calculator. What was my maximum I would pay? 45.5. I'm under that. Good. So I'm in it for less than 70% ITV, making a 10% yield. So another way to interpret that, just so everybody's very clear, if I invest $40,257 today and receive $416.67 a month for the next 52 months, and then I get a lump sum of $34,999.80, I'll be making a 10% annualized return. Okay. Now again, I can put in any yield in there that I want. If I put in a higher yield, what's going to happen to my present value, everybody? It's going to go down, right? Because I'm spending less money for the same amount of cash flow in lump sum. Okay. So the yield then is a basis to start with. And now if I start to uncover other little items in the discovery, in the paperwork, well, that number may come down and my yield may come up, to be determined. So can we still make money on a 0% interest loan? Of course. We just have to discount that loan quite a bit to get that yield up, right? Because the balance of this loan right now, what was the balance of this loan right now? Let's see. All right. Let's see. So 416 times 8 is 333. It started at 60,000. So the balance on the loan right now is $56,666. And I'm coming in at 40,000. So $16,400 discount. Okay. Why is that discount so big? Not because I'm greedy, not because I'm looking for a huge, grand slam on this thing. It's being discounted because they wrote it at 0% interest. We've got to think of it this way. If they wrote this where it was principal and interest, and they wrote it where there's a 9% yield already on 9% interest on the loan already,
Big
well, heck, I
difference.
don't have to discount it that much anymore for go from 9 to 10. I got to go from 0 to at least 10.
Yeah.
That's why they're seeing a big discount. Now, why would somebody sell it? Because they've accepted that price temporarily. That's our starting price. They've accepted that. Why would they accept such a big discount? Well, because they're still making money. Okay, we don't know what they paid for the house that they sold for 65,000. Okay. I might be able to find that out when I go to public records, which I haven't done yet on this deal. I may very well find that out and find out that they bought it really cheap. It was in pretty decent shape. It was a motivated seller or a foreclosure or a divorce or a death involved. Who knows? Probate kind of thing. I don't know. But they're willing to sell it at a discount because they're still probably making some money on this.
Yeah.
Maybe they own the house free and clear. Okay, maybe they own the house free and clear, and this investor came in and said, "Hey, I'll do it. I'll buy it this way." They got the payments, and now somebody approached them and said, "Hey, did you know you could sell out of that note?" No, we did not. So maybe they do want the lump sum, and they're just motivated because they need or want the money. I don't know. I don't need to fully understand it either, do I?
No.
You know, uh, they've agreed upon the price. So now that temporary agreement, because they've agreed in what? Because I sent an email with the price. That's not a purchase sale agreement, everybody. That's not an obligation for me to buy or them to sell. It's a little bit above a verbal agreement. That's really all we have. We need to formalize that through a purchase and sale agreement, right? Now the purchase and sale agreement, I could go ahead and write it at that number and put in a clause there saying subject to bop, 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 bop. Do I need a BPO? Do I need title? Or I find a tax problem? Is there an underlying lien on the property? Something like that. Was there a utility lien that stuff like that. I could leave wiggle room in a formal written offer, or I could just delay the written offer and do my own discovery. The better between the two, by the way, get it under contract if you can, where they have the obligation to sell, but you have really kind of the option to buy because you still have conditions under your subject to clauses. You've got conditions that have to be met before you are compelled legally, morally, ethically to follow through in the contract. Okay? They have to. They're locked in. And that'd be the better way to do it. So interesting deal, and it should work out. I mean, the rent. Oh, and by the way, do you think I asked for a copy of the lease? Sure did. I'll get a copy of the I'll get a copy of the lease and make sure that that's all good. Um, because by the way, what happens if the borrower, who's really the landlord, what if they are not making the mortgage payments, but they're still collecting the rent? I'll get what's called an assignment of rent. So I want to know what that rent looks like. I want to see the conditions of that lease. Um, and I would be awarded that all day long. If the guy doesn't pay for another reason, I have to take the property back. I have to honor that lease. Is it a 5-year lease? I don't know. Is it a 1-year lease? I have no idea. That's why I need to see that on discovery. Will I find that in public records? No. Okay. That's why I always tell her you discover what you can in public records, and then you ask for further documentation from the seller, and you combine those two to get the full picture of everything that's going on there. So yeah, we can make money on 0% interest loans. They're going to be discounted a lot further. And in the previous example that I showed you, there's good signs on notes. It's numbers and story. Having those people come up with 4 grand basically and catch it up on that, real strong sign for us. Getting a higher yield, lower risk now, great combination. And again, that shows flexibility in these contracts before you close on them. So there you go, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. And again, if you have a particular topic or something you want us to cover, shoot me an email, kevin@kevinshortell.com. You can also go to the website of the same name, kevinshortell.com, and you can see the spelling on the screen there, shortle.com. See all the various programs that I have, education, all the way up to partnering in deals with people. And by, what I mean by partnering, because some people in this industry think partnering is you put up 100% of the money and they get 50% of the payments. I'm not one of those people. I don't think that's right. I put in money. So if I put in 10%, I get 10% of the monthly payment. If I put in 20%, I get 20% of the monthly payment. That's how it works. It's a whole different arrangement. So I put my money into these deals with you. So a lot of different levels there. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email, kevin@kevinshortell.com, or visit the website. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll talk to you again real soon.